Hello and welcome into the KE Report. I'm your host, Shad Markwitz, and I'm speaking today with Scott Petsel, president of Metallic Minerals, traded on the TSX.V under the ticker MMG and on the OTCQB under the ticker MMNGF. Scott, it's always great getting you on the show just to get an update on Metallic Minerals. And you've got some news out this morning with some of the drill results that you put into the Formo Target at Keno Hill at the Keno Silver Project. And so these are some high-grade zingers. I won't steal your thunder, but walk us through some of the results you put out from this four-hole program.
Yeah, it's really exciting for us. I mean, we've been exploring at Keno since 2017, and the results of the program that we just completed this last summer really show that we've got it dialed in. We know where to go look. We know where to find high grade and to drill the best holes. And in fact, this year, with only 4 holes and 1,100 meters of drilling, we drilled one of the best holes that we've seen on the Keno Silver Project in the metallic era. And that was at our Formo target, as we discussed. We hit 46 meters of 256 grams per ton silver equivalent. And that's a really thick zone that consists of both massive sulfide vein, high-grade massive sulfide vein that ran roughly 3.3 meters wide at 1,400 grams per ton, and then stringer, more stringer-related, stockwork-related mineralization that stretched that interval out to 46 meters. So it's really exciting, and again, this is one of the best holes we've seen on the Keno project when we look at it in terms of grade thickness. So when you take the grade of the deposit in grams per ton, you multiply that times the thickness, you come up with a number, and you can compare that across the other holes in the district. And that ranks right up there in the number 1 or 2 spot with results that we've had to date for our work on the project.
Well, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about where these holes were drilled in the Formo target area? Were they going deeper than previous holes? Were they step-out holes? Just give us a little color around where these holes were put.
Great question, Chad. Yes, in fact, this is the deepest hole that's been drilled on the Formo target. To date, we've only drilled around 4,000 meters of drilling at Formo, 4,419 meters total in 26 holes. And the area that we've tested is really shallow. Next to surface, we're seeing exposed mineralization from historic pit work at surface, and this mineralization now extends down with this drilling of hole 2303, which was a 140 meter step out down dip from the closest previous drilling. That drilling has now only tested this deposit down to about 275 meters from surface. And that is important because, it talks about this optionality between the idea of looking at narrow high-grade vein systems that could be mined from underground, or having this bulk tonnage optionality with a 46-meter wide interval, which is really repeating wide intervals that we've seen from above as well. So still shallow, potentially open pittable, both high-grade and bulk mineable optionality.
Well, let's talk a little bit more about the optionality between the bulk mineable zones and the high-grade zones and the high-grade veins. Unlike your neighbors at Hecla that have mostly that high-grade underground, you have this dual nature to the half of the Keno Hill district that you have at the Keno Silver Project. You've kind of segmented it, Scott, into 3 different areas, the east, the central, and the west. Maybe break down how all these are playing together and how that's tying together into the resource update that you look to put out here in Q1.
Well, you always respond to the drill results that you get in terms of looking at and building understanding and understanding how to approach it from an economic standpoint. But with the district, which is really 35 kilometers across, we've really divided it up into those 3 sections, a west, a central, and an east Keno area. And Formo, which sits in the west, is close to, it's actually an in-holding within Hecla's ground, close to the Silver Trail Highway, which feeds into the community of Keno City and the Keno area mill, controlled by Hecla, and is close to deposits at Hector Calumet, which produced over 90 million ounces of silver, and close to Birmingham, where Hecla is currently mining. So that west end of the district, really high grade, really interesting, and what Formo represents is something that is very similar to that style of mineralization. And if we look back, I mentioned the Hector Calumet deposit with 90 million ounces. Some of that was historically mined from an open pit complex there at surface. And so this is what we see at Formo, is that ability to look at it on trend with Hector Calumet as both an open pit or an underground deposit, or a combination of both, to be mined over time with access infrastructure and power infrastructure right there as an inholding within the Hecla ground. But if we look at the other zones, the central and eastern zones, back in 2020, a light really clicked on for us, and we drilled our Fox target and made a discovery out there in the Keno East area, or East Keno area, and subsequently followed up, and we hit some really interesting mineralization. We drilled up to 177 meter wide zones that run roughly 50 to 100 gram per ton silver equivalent. So a lot lower grade than what would traditionally have been explored for in the 400 to 3,000 gram per ton range that we see with Hecla and some of our narrow vein intervals. But that this 177 meter zone at more modest grade, very shallow dipping, right at surface, and correlates with other very thick zones that could quickly add ounces to the resource and will be a part of our thinking in terms of our inaugural resource estimate, which is due in the near term.
Well, Scott, on this upcoming inaugural resource estimate, will it be segmented down between the high-grade areas and the bulk tonnage areas so that people get a sense of both, or will it all be mixed together into one larger resource?
Well, we'll see one larger resource coming from 4 different zones. And I think that's significant because, we've really only drilled since 2017 about 18,000 meters of drilling on the project. And by comparison, when you look around the district, look at Banyan. Well, Banyan did 30,000 meters in a previous season, in one season. And so what we've demonstrated is that with a minimal amount of drilling on these projects seasonally, that we have been very effective at identifying and outlining and bringing to the table these new resources while maintaining a plethora of exploration targets that have yet to be tested. So when we finally get that year where we can go out and drill 20,000 meters on the project, I expect that we would be very successful in identifying significant additional resources and making new discoveries with that work.
Well, Scott, I just got to ask you more of a speculative question in nature, because I get people emailing us in this question quite often. Is the master plan to build up a resource that's attractive enough to Hecla, your neighbors, so that you could do some kind of a toll milling arrangement, or so they may be interested in buying the project? Or do you think that when you put out this resource and continue to add to it with future drilling, that the plan is to look more at building your own standalone processing center here?
Well, I think all of those options are on the table. The one thing I would mention is we're not miners, so it's unlikely for us to march along with the idea that we're going to end up mining this and utilizing Hecla's mill to do that. I don't see that necessarily as a goal. We want to stay within our expertise, and that would mean partnering with Hecla, having Hecla monetize some of our assets for us to allow exploration in the district, or finding another company like a Discovery Silver. And you think about what Discovery Silver is doing down at Cordero in Mexico and identifying these zones of 100 meters of 40 grams. Well, stuff like this stuff we're finding at Fox that has the ability to grow and scale presents a very similar situation to what they've got down there at Cordero, which is a really large mega deposit that they're working on. And they might like to have some resources in a more secure jurisdiction like the Yukon.
Yeah, Scott, that is an interesting point. You don't usually think about silver in Canada in the Yukon, but you've got it in spades there at the Keno Silver Project. Well, let's also bring people up to speed on another key project for the company, and that's the La Plata Copper Project and Precious Metals Project down in Colorado, near the Durango area. You have some news slated to come out in the first quarter as far as some of the drilling. Remind us of the drilling you did last year for the 2023 program at La Plata.
Well, we drilled 4,600 meters of drilling at La Plata to chase up high-grade extensions from our drill hole that we drilled in 2022 that really attracted the attention of Newcrest and led to their investment of $6.3 million as a strategic investment in the company for 9.5% of us. And so we, basically completed that drilling, and we're awaiting results now, and we'll really look forward to getting those results out here in the first quarter as we wait on the lab to continue to process those results. But we're really excited. We've seen continuous zones of mineralization, basically from surface to the ends of these holes at various levels of intensity, but good alkaline porphyritic copper system with good porphyry mineralization from stem to stern, and it's going to be really additive to our resource there and help to set vectors in terms of continuing to find additional high grade on the project. And really excited to get those numbers out here as soon as we can.
Well, Scott, just as a quick review, just remind folks of the resource you already have at La Plata before this drilling's even incorporated.
Yeah, sometimes the numbers escape me, but 1.3 billion pounds of copper equivalent. I think it's at a 0.41% copper equivalent grade, and looks like we have numerous targets that have been untested to date that can really add to that number and continue to generate good news from the project for us. And we're really excited about our essential investment by Newcrest, now Newmont, and working with them on the technical committee to advance the project as well. And it's been a really good relationship to this point.
Well, one more just side question here at the La Plata project on some of the drilling you had initially was, in addition to copper, there are precious metals in this project, but there's also some really interesting, almost strategic metals, you could say. Maybe just speak to the nature of the mineralization and how unusual it is to have not just gold and silver, but platinum, palladium, but also some other minerals that lead you to believe this is a very complex system.
It is. It's a complex system in the sense that there will be multiple intrusive centers, which could be very well mineralized and would allow for a great expansion of this resource over time. But it's really early days. The interesting thing about it being an alkalic porphyry copper system is that these alkalic systems generally do carry higher precious metal content. So when you think about our resource, 1.3 billion pounds of copper equivalent, that includes 17 million ounces of silver in it. It does not include gold because historically they weren't assaying for gold. But in the metallic era, since our acquisition of the project in 2019, we've sampled for gold. We see gold content, but we also see platinum and palladium in these drill results. And that is something that is going to be additive to that resource as we process the new results and incorporate them into a resource update due sometime in 2024. And you'll start to see an increase in grade, increase in tonnage because of the new drilling, but that increase in grade because of the addition of gold, platinum, and palladium. And as you mentioned, the district itself, a lot of the historic focus in the district was narrow vein gold, silver, telluride vein systems. And so we do see a lot of telluride mineralization in some of these epithermal systems that surround the porphyry center. We get traces of rare earth elements. We get a little bit of moly as well. And how those will play in is really yet to be determined. But keep in mind the U.S. government, and through the Transportation Infrastructure Act and their desire to kind of identify and locate minerals for domestic sourced minerals for the green energy transition and domestic security, they put hundreds of thousands of dollars into the La Plata district to help source some of these critical minerals. And we've been working in conjunction with the Colorado Geological Survey and supported them in their efforts to do that. So this is additive to our overall program and really something that continues to excite us in terms of what can we really end up with here, and the work continues.
All right, Scott. Well, we'll wrap it up there, but some exciting drill results out today at the Keno Silver Project. You've got the resource coming up in Q1. You've got some drill results from La Plata coming up in Q1, so a lot of news on tap for investors. And if people want to check out the company news, definitely click on the link below. And just one more quick question, Scott. You're going to be at a couple upcoming conferences for the resource sector. Maybe just remind people where you'll be and where they can find you.
Yeah, I would say we're going to be at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, VRIC, which is from January 21st to 22nd. We have a booth there with our fellow metallic group members, Granite Creek Copper and Stillwater Critical Minerals. And we'll be showing a little bit of our drill core from the La Plata project. We also have a core shack presence at Roundup, January 22nd to the 25th in Vancouver at the Convention Center. So come by and see us there if you want to get a feel in person for what the drill core from our La Plata project looks like. And lastly, we'll be displaying core. It's a bit of an honor to have this opportunity at Prospectors and Developers Association of Canada annual convention in Toronto, EDAC, in March 3rd to March 6th. So if you have the opportunity, come by and meet us in person, have a look at the La Plata core. We'd be more than happy to say hi.
All right, Scott. Well, there's some exciting events for people to come see you in the flesh. And also check out the company website and update. There's a lot of news flow on tap in the months to come. And like always, Scott, looking forward to our next conversation.
Much appreciated. Thank you.